My name is Paul. Sorry, I can't reveal my last name for security purposes. You'll understand why in a moment. But I just wanted to give a short presentation about my own personal first-hand account and experience with dealing with that deadly toxic neuroleptic known as ZYPREXA olanzapine, which has been destroying lives around the world for the past 23 years. Um, if this video is being shown at the Institute of Scientific Freedom in Copenhagen, that's wonderful. Believe me, I very much wish I could be there in person myself, but legal circumstances prevent me, from traveling. I actually have the passport right here. Wish I could be with you, but not going to happen, right? Some of you may know me. I used to be an online whistleblower on the internet, um, sharing my story with the overall supply chain, and from my first-hand account, as I said, from taking ZYPREXA for a total of 16 years from start to finish, 1995 to 2015. Um, However, I am no longer online, which I'll get into in just a moment. But as I said, 16 years of experience, or not experience, but first-hand account of having ZYPREXA in my system, and the last 3.5 years of which were spent in withdrawal mode, trying to come off of that stuff. Whether 3.5 years was too quick or too short, that remains to be seen. I can tell you I have been dealing with insomnia and sleep difficulties since then, in 2012, when I began withdrawal mode. By my calculations, I figure I have missed out on some 5,000 hours of sleep, dealing with that kind of sleep deprivation based upon my numbers and calculations. That's how I came up with that number. And I don't think that's an exaggeration one bit at all. And of course, as far as I am concerned, again, I am not a neurologist or a scientist or what have you, but I feel like I am a brain-damaged insomniac, whether it's the dopamine receptors or the other parts of the brain. Again, I'm not a scientist, but I have not never had any kind of brain scan, MRI, or anything like that done. Perhaps one day I will, but I can tell you, I just want to give a brief recap again of my experience of ZYPREXA and what I like to call the supply chain, coming down from the core of the problem, which of course is the pharmaceutical industry. Like I said, 1999 is when I started taking it. Granted, it was at, I suppose, the smallest dose, tablet-wise, available, but yet, does that really matter when you're, taking this kind of, chemically, generated substances, that are, toxic to the brain and the body, right? And like in 2001, like after being on a couple of years, I developed a stuttering problem with my speech. I do not have 100% conclusive proof that it's related to the ZYPREXA. Of course, I do believe it is. I informed the prescriber. I mean, she observed this. Never fazed her in the slightest way. I remember at that same time researching ZYPREXA and came across neuroleptic malignant syndrome, and put that question to her about the possibility of developing it. She completely dismissed that as being nothing to worry about. Um, and yes, I continued taking it. In 2007, I had experienced a major numbness episode one night. During the middle of the night, I woke up and like the right side of my body was numb from head to toe. Um, uh, in all, it took a few hours to completely dissipate. Naturally, I was concerned if it was some kind of CVA or stroke or what have you. Um, uh, I don't think it was. It could have been some kind of neurological event. I'm not sure because I never tested for it. Okay. However, that was kind of like a turning point in this view of ZYPREXA and the prescriber and the prescribing establishment and Big Pharma because as a result of that numbness episode, that's when I, um, uh, informed her. I put it flat out and said, well, if something's going on here neurologically, affecting me in an adverse way, I said, well, I'll legally file a complaint against Eli Lilly and pursue a lawsuit against them. All I got in return was again a complete zip of the lips and complete silence, with a kind of like a snarl, to her eyes and her look, meaning, how dare you take on the authority and prescribing powers and establishment it be, right? That's what it was exactly what was going on. And by the way, one other thing I just wanted to say, going back 12 years earlier to 1995 on that very first appointment, mind you, I was on a very small dose of imipramine and Klonopin at that time for 4 years. I was greeted with the term that I was, quote, severely under-medicated. That's what's known as the writing on the wall as to what was to come, right? I'll never forget that moment, even though it was 24 years ago. That was a moment that will live in infamy, that's for sure. And like I said, apart from in 2007 warning her about hey, maybe I'll go after Eli Lilly with a lawsuit. I mean, obviously I was not getting through, and likewise, I mean, were there any prescribing alterations or modifications made? No. I mean, between advising her of a lawsuit and this numbness episode, and of course that was the time back with the class action lawsuit. Um, yeah, you really have to wonder what their true agenda is, um, and and uh, and in the coming years, that's when I found out. And so, yes, I'm continuing to take this stuff. I was put on it, I will say, for a sleep problem, and this was the result, of just having a difficult time dealing with noise. To be honest, interfering in sleep, causing irritation, and so I wound up taking this. I was not forced to take it. Just want to be clear about that. Okay, but let's see here. So, as I said, I continued taking it, but um, in these later years, as I said, when my suspicions were growing after 2007, the numbness episode, and I was also having this problem of slipping into some kind of respiratory distress, or whether it's respiratory arrest, I don't know. I do not think it was sleep apnea because it would just happen in just a single event during the night. Because I know sometimes with sleep apnea it occurs multiple times a night. But I would wake up completely, with my respiratory system just shut down. I can remember I would have to tell myself consciously to inhale to restart the respiratory system and process, okay? Um, and, these, so in 2012, okay, so I made the decision on my own to come off of ZYPREXA, okay? And this was another major critical turning point in my, ZYPREXA history. Now, at that time, she is dismissing these respiratory arrest events as being nocturnal anxiety attacks. Okay, I told her that is not the case. Okay, again, didn't get through. She wasn't interested, because she's speaking from clinical authority, and we're going to talk about that word authority in a bit more in just a second. And but so I made the decision to withdraw. The first couple of months or so was going fine. Then kind of hit a brick wall, which, as most of you know, that's often is the case. Things are going smoothly, and then once you get to that certain level, in my case, it was probably 10 to 20% or 80% reduction of the original dose. Okay, and then bang, the major league big time insomnia kicks in. Okay, among other things, and what I can say about that quickly is how, as I was withdrawing, these respiratory arrest problems, episodes, attacks, okay, they began to diminish in frequency and intensity. Okay, so that was very interesting. Okay, and when I, as I said, when I started just browsing at my notes here, so when I started to withdraw from this, and as far as the withdrawal side effects, okay, because as a result of these new symptoms I was experiencing, that's when I began to, stumble upon with ZYPREXA withdrawal, and that's when I figured what was going on with me. I had no idea this was going to happen. And I recall reaching out on the phone to her. Again, this is another classic moment in history, to advise her of withdrawal side effects. I'm requesting instructions what to do. The response I was given was, well, I have only prescribed it on a limited basis, and I do not have any experience in taking people off ZYPREXA. That's very clinically, legally convenient, right? Not her responsibility. She just prescribes the stuff, right? So, gotta love this field of medicine and psychopharmacology, right? And and you can imagine my reaction being told that.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
No experience, and obviously not her responsibility. And as during this final year of 2012 into 2013, it became clear to me, even by her own admission, that she had no exit strategy. Okay, I had made a comment about how at that time, that would have been like 13 years in my system, how I could be one of the few people in the world that's had it in their system for so long, and she again completely dismissed that, saying, again, people stay on these drugs for the rest of their lives. It's no big deal, and of course, again, hence the supply chain that I talked about, because this is coming right down from again, the pharmaceutical industry to the sales reps. The sales reps telling to the prescribers, stay on it. And of course, I'm sure they're being told that the same old, marketing and sales pitch and garbage at the at these conventions that they go to, and again, you have to wonder where the ethics are behind all this. So, apart from not having any exit strategy, you see, and as I since discovered, this is what I call part of a clinical playbook or guidebook that she was following, again, of drugging people up for the rest of your life, not listening to you, even if they are, potentially, dangerous, adverse side effects. You're not going to get through to these people, and that's not good. And I have a very difficult time believing that this kind of authority combined with negligence exists in or would be tolerated in any other field of medicine. It's just something to ponder, right? And so I mean, that's what I call the old school of medicine, again, of drugging people up for the rest of your life. And in that final year, in 2013, again, in my final attempt, to get through to this person, I said, don't you realize I easily could have died in my during the night from taking ZYPREXA? And the response was, she said, "Oh well, it is beneficial." Spoken with true clinical authority. You see, and that's what it's all about, authority, that dreaded A word. And so what I wanted to also say was, I didn't get through. I actually asked her, because the appointment was occurring at my residence, okay? But that's another story I'm not going to get into. But I actually, after that comment, I asked her to leave. She would not honor my request, okay? But that beneficial remark of hers, what was absolutely despicable, or as I like to say, the equivalent of strike three, you're out, and go get yourself a lawyer. Okay, so at this time, I was attempting to seek out legal counsel and pursue this, with malpractice. For the most part, I could not even get anyone to speak to me. When they found out the field of medicine and so on and so forth, most likely because trying to prove that there was malpractice and or negligence, well, where is the evidence, right? And that is kind of like the $1 trillion question. I'm just guessing from a legal perspective. And like a few months later, I had sent a letter to her saying that, basically your services are no longer required type of letter, where I said, due to the prolonged exposure of having ZYPREXA in my system, I can no longer be under your medical care. And then in 2014, I filed a 14-page long complaint about her with the state in an attempt to have her professionally disciplined. Long story short with that is it resulted in an investigation that lasted almost a year and a half. I was not asked to participate in it. I was not contacted for more info or whatever. I ended this complaint by requesting that her license to prescribe be revoked. And then, like I said, almost a year and a half later, after submitting this, I received a letter back saying that the investigation was concluded and that there was insufficient evidence. Those are the key words: insufficient evidence to substantiate my allegations. Case was officially quietly closed. Have a nice day. That was the gist of it. So, once again, it's the authority prevailing, and tough luck and too bad for the patient, right? That's what it all comes down to. And anyway, so after filing the complaint it's just one slap in the face, clinically, legally, and such. I was going to just say how again, have to give credit where it's due with many people, and especially with Dr. Peter Getcha, doctor, and about the organized crime and deadly medicine and the negligence, the corruption. I like to call it a crime against humanity, and I know I'm not the first one to use that term. And what's so disturbing is that these people, right from the supply chain, again, from the pharmaceutical industry all the way down to the prescribers, are making their careers out of destroying people's lives. That's not right. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just not right. And I will also mention how little did I know back in 2011, when my suspicions about both the prescriber and her wonderfully beneficial ZYPREXA were mounting, because it's beneficial even if it kills you, because, I mean, she basically admitted to that to me on July 18th of 2013. But that's not malpractice, apparently. I personally think of it as attempted manslaughter, if you really think about it. If you have no problem sending somebody to a premature death, what does that say about the person, both legally and clinically and ethically, right? So again, something is not good here. And what I was going to say was, little did I know back at that time in 2011. Well, it just so happens that her co-prescriber, supervising psychiatrist, was dealing with a medical malpractice, wrongful death lawsuit himself. A slight disclosure: I never had anything to do with him. Apparently, this must have slipped her mind, I guess, back in 2011 when she was telling me how wonderful he was and getting $300 an hour cash for his time, and didn't take any insurance. God bless America, right? And of course, that lawsuit was actually settled by agreement, as the term goes. My best guess is that it was some kind of malpractice insurance financial payout to the plaintiff. I don't know. I tried to obtain more info about it, but due to confidentiality laws, I could not retrieve any additional information about it. And of course, likewise, it would be very interesting to know what kind of evidence was in possession of the plaintiff if they got him to settle by agreement, as opposed to facing a judicial clinical tribunal. Okay, because that's what happened. All right. Like I said, settled by agreement. So you can just bear with me for a moment here, but one other thing that is disturbing to me, at least about these so-called prescribers in psych medicine, I can tell you that, and again, I'm not mentioning names for obvious reasons, but in my immediate area, okay, there are now four psych prescribers, three of whom I've done business with over the past 30 years, okay, and so now number four was just hit with a triple lawsuit from three different patients, and to think that there are, like I said, now four of them that have been hit with either lawsuits or complaints or disciplinary action, and again, in a very localized area. So again, it makes you wonder what's really going on with these people. I use the term psychiatric rape. And it doesn't matter if it's through mental or mind control or through their medications, or if it's sexual misconduct. Okay, I mean, rape is rape. I mean, that's the bottom line. And these people, are getting away with it. I personally, I think this is a symptom of a far greater problem with these prescribers. Okay, and again, I'm not mentioning the person's name, but it doesn't take much intelligence to find out who I am referring to in this latest triple lawsuit. And what bothers me the most about this is that this clown, goes on camera and shooting down the credibility of these three plaintiffs because they have psychiatric issues and problems, and they're mentally unstable and all this. And it just so happens, of course, you see, that was the legal tactic and spin that my prescriber used on me 4 to 5 years ago, when I tried to have her license revoked, she put my credibility on trial. You see? So these prescribers, they're, you know, well, what can you say, right? But again, it's all about authority, and an authority doesn't want to be exposed. And getting back to what I was originally saying about how I was no longer on the internet, and that's because I will just quickly mention to you, after 6 years of one slap in the face after another, and legally, clinically, and not to mention at that point 6 years of sleep problems and such. I gave in to my frustrations, and I made threats against this prescriber, former ex-prescriber of 18 years. Okay, and again, just to clarify, this is not the one with the triple lawsuit that I just mentioned. Okay, this is the person that I had with the ZYPREXA horror story and fiasco with. Okay. And so again, I'm not going to elaborate in detail on what happened, but I did make threats against her. Part of me call it Leo pride, but I am proud of what I did. It's kind of sad to hear myself say that, but I have no problem at all standing up to authority and challenging authority, and that's exactly what I attempted to do. And I got shot down for it. Basically lost 7 months of my life. I have been banned from uploading more content on the internet for the foreseeable future. What is also very disturbing about this ex-prescriber is that, for starters, she wanted to see my right as being an online presence be permanently banned and revoked. Okay, that has not happened. But again, see, authority, they don't want to be exposed, both professionally and personally, for who they are and what they do. Okay? And to make matters worse, she wanted to see me court-ordered back on a neuroleptic. So my interpretation of that is, well, apparently sending me to a premature death with her ZYPREXA, I guess that wasn't adequate enough for her. And why not go down the same road and have history repeat itself, right? So and to think she had the gall and the audacity and the nerve to do that, and of course describe me in the police report as being severely mentally ill. And remember that term I used earlier? It's not just malpractice. That was attempted manslaughter. Okay. These people, what a disgrace. What a disgrace. And as I always love to say,
may whatever God you believe in
have mercy on their souls. Right?
Have mercy on your souls.
So, anyway, I think that's about it. I did just, otherwise in closing, just wanted to mention, that if you wish to contact me, you can reach me by email at ZYPREXAman@gmail.com. That is ZYPREXAman@gmail.com. And I, on a final note, would like to again express my sincere thanks and gratitude again to Dr. Peter Getche and and Dr. Peter Bregan and his good wife Ginger, Dr. Pamela Popper, and of course Robert Whitaker from Mad in America. Thank you so much. What else can I say? Again, wish I could be there in person, but so that is my story. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share it with you, okay? And I hope this, as always, you found it to be enlightening and informative. And again, it's, again, corruption, negligence, crime against humanity, and that's what it comes down to. So, thank you again, and hope to see you sometime soon. Thank you. Bye. ZYPREXA is beneficial,
even if it kills you.
Production assistance furnished in part by Eli Lilly, Legalized Drug Pushers of Massachusetts, Food and Drug Administration, Newburyport.com, GloriousFoundation.org, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, Plum Island Coffee Roasters, 79 State Street, LLC, Transit Safety Management, Joy for All and For Real Friends, Eon Productions, Survivors of the Clipper City Rapists, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and kind words of support from viewers like you. Thank you.